Hi everyone, it's Margaret here with 60 and Me. Today I've got a really interesting and different kind of a video to share with you in a conversation about Stoics, about Stoicism. And I recently picked up a book called The Daily Stoic. It's by a man called Ryan Holiday. And it's really opened my eyes to so many interesting approaches to living in really turbulent times. Now, the word Stoic obviously always gives you this image of someone who's being brave and strong and kind of, lacking emotion, dealing with lots of, difficult situations, being stoic. But it's more than that. And I wanted to share with you some of the key ideas about Stoicism and see what you think about it, whether it applies to the life that you're living. Now, who are the Stoic philosophers? Okay, so there were many of them, but you can think of some of them, for example, that lived in like 120, 200 AD, people like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. There were others, but those are the three main ones that I know about, have learned about. And they were people who were running, the country, and they were actually dealing with all kinds of turbulence in their lives, in terms of political situations, emotional and personal things, and also economies. I mean, they were, leading the countries, and they were dealing with turbulent times. So they wrote several books, and there was one by Marcus Aurelius called Meditations, and there were many others that were trying to create practical solutions to challenges that we might face in our lives, so that we can be wiser, more resilient, and have perseverance, to kind of live a life of of happiness, and to develop an art to living. And I think that if you, in a very simple sentence, want to sort of sum up the philosophy behind Stoicism, it is simply that there are some things in this world that you cannot control. But you can control your perspective, and you can control your response to those things. So the idea is that you focus on the things that you can control. Put your energy into those things, and then you will live a life that is happier and more balanced and less stressful. And I think when you stop to think about it today, think of all the things in our lives that we have no control over. That you as an individual, you cannot control these things, but you can change and shift your efforts and your perspectives so that you can make things work. So let me give you an example. This is a really silly one, but it was one that I was thinking that happened just to me recently. So basically, I went the other day to a place called Locarno, and I was there to take pictures and do a video. And when I got there, it was pouring with rain. Now, I have no control over the rain. I have no control over the weather. I have no control over, the political or the environment that created Locarno, the roads, the cobblestones, whatever. But I do have control over the way I perceive it. And I made the decision. I said, well, it's pouring with rain, but wow, look at the buildings. They're like shining. The colors are like 10 times more vibrant than if it was just a sunny day. So that was shifting my perspective, so that I could see the good in that situation. I wasn't going to say, oh, never mind, I'll just go home. What's the point? It's raining. I said, oh, wow, it's raining, but look how beautiful that makes the city. Another one is like, if you wake up in the morning and you go outside and you see you've got a flat tire. Your car's got a flat tire. You can't control the fact that you've got a flat tire, or that it may be, raining, or that something happened overnight that, whatever. What you can say is, oh, wow, I'm so glad I saw that flat tire before I got in it and headed downtown, or that the flat tire happened when I was on the highway, or driving at 60 miles an hour. I'm glad it happened now, so that I can take care of it. Those are just a couple of really kind of silly almost examples, but in a way it's actually foundational to Stoic philosophy. And so I found that really, really fascinating. Put your attention where it can make a difference. That's the Stoic philosophy in a nutshell. So Stoicism teaches us that perceptions of things like the world, economy, or politics, or whatever is on your mind, they can actually be a source of strength or a source of weakness. And this book by this guy called Ryan Holiday, The Daily Stoic, encourages readers to look at things in a perspective that is objective and true, and free from influence of any negative means, so that no negative emotions. Now, this is something that I actually not struggled with, but questioned when I was reading about Stoicism. What about emotion? Emotion, you have to feel emotions. Say that you don't agree with something, or something is hurting you or hurting someone that you love. You can't be devoid of emotions. And I think that, and I actually did some questions and answers on this stuff to get clear in my mind. And the truth is that Stoicism is very emotional. There's a passionate desire to live life right in the present moment, and to be joyful about it and appreciative. And by doing that thing I told you earlier about not focusing on the things you can't control, but embracing and living the life that you love, that's very joyful. And there's nothing wrong with the emotions of love and compassion and and even joy and abundance. But there is a desire in Stoicism to move away from the negative associations of fear and hesitation and drama and toxicity, because if you move yourself towards those places, you're going to be diluting your power to make make good decisions and to see the positive in things. So this living in the present moment is a really big part of the Stoic way of life. Now, but honestly, by the way, I'm not an expert on Stoicism at all. I just found it interesting and I thought I'd share. And when I mentioned this in our Patreon supporters group, people were saying, I love that. I really find that interesting. And so I thought, well, it's worth just putting out there and let's talk about it. But this idea of living every day like it's your last day. That's what the Stoic would say. It's like if you take the look that every day that you live on this earth could be your last day. How do you live it then? You live it with joy and happiness and with constructive, positive things rather than negativity. That's kind of how your body would naturally guide us. And that negativity involves looking back in the past or being worried about the future. Those things that fear, that desire, that reality of hesitation and nerves and depression, those are all things that take you away from the reality at the moment. So in a way, mindfulness, which is actually part of Buddhism and other religions, prayer, are actually ways to appreciate life and make the most of your time in that moment, in that day. And I really think that's really powerful. And it's interesting to think about these people like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca. They were like, organizing, wars and battles for land and like political infighting. I mean, they were all dealing with complexity. It wasn't like they hadn't think about the future or look on the past, but they didn't attach their energy to it. They put their energy to the living in the present moment. Another thing that I like personally about Stoicism is its virtue, is its focus on goodness, on virtue. They call it virtue, which is that it's actually central to the Stoic philosophy. That goodness is important, and living a life of very high integrity. See, these words are different words. They're words that almost have an older feeling to them, like a more archaic feeling to them, virtue and integrity. But we know what they are. We know what those things are. And we call it kindness and courage and compassion. We just have different words for it. But for the Stoics, virtue was like almost their most important element, their most important emotion, that you are part of humanity, that everybody is on this journey together, sort of thing, and that everyone's equal, and that regardless of external circumstances, which are those things you can't control, when you hone it down, you get to people, you get to just individuals, and it's really, really about kindness and courage, and also resilience, to show resilience in the face of hardship. Now, the one example, I don't think it was in this particular book, which is a book of like daily meditations, but it was another story about saying during the pandemic, we actually all became Stoics because we had to we couldn't control what was going on with the virus. We had no idea at the beginning what was causing it, we couldn't put our attention there, but we put our attention towards the day. How are we going to find some food? Where are we going to get our medicines? How are we going to keep in touch with our friends? And it was all like right focused on the present moment, which I think is really, really interesting to use that as an example. The pandemic being a way where we had to be brave and courageous in the face of something we couldn't control at the beginning anyway. We got into more understanding of it, but that the secret was to stay focused on your perception and your interpretations of the reality rather than the negative. And also, like, we became creative. We actually learned how to make things and do things and be resilient. And resilience, I think, was a really important part of the Stoics' philosophy about maintaining peace and calm, so that you could deal with these things that were out of your control. So even during challenging times. I thought that was really fascinating. And another part I want to mention was self-reflection, because they did believe in, and again, it's back to Buddhism now, they did believe in self-reliance, meditation, daily meditations. That's the name of the book by Marcus Aurelius, to give you some ideas how to live a life of goodness and abundance in difficult times. And again, the final thing, I'm just looking at my notes here, is simplicity. That they encourage people not to be so hung up and tied up in material things, but to look for the essence of things. And they, talked about the pitfalls of excesses and living a more simple life. So I don't know what you think about this. I mean, I just throw it out there because I'm always looking for practical ways to be happy and to deal with things that are sometimes overwhelming. And I just wondered if you've heard about Stoicism, whether you've read any books on the Stoic philosophy. I think The Art of War is another one that's very. Some of these have become very popular, and it's almost like these cycles, come through in history where philosophies and religions from the past, or these philosophies from the past, come back. And just would like to know what you think about it. Did you find it interesting? I certainly did. Anywho, take good care of yourselves. Be stoic in the best possible way today by focusing on the things that you can control, having a perception of goodness and simplicity, and let me know what you think. Okay, everybody, take really good care, and I appreciate you here, and I really love you all so much. I respect everything you're going through, whether this helps or not, but it's just another idea to share. Lots of love.